Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Today is May 18th, and this is Veterans Voices, a monthly talk show focusing on veterans issues, your issues. I'm your host, Nathan Johnson, and I'm joined again tonight by Melissa Margain, who will be filling in for Kevin Graves this evening while he's away on special assignment with the California Army National Guard. Kevin recorded a message for our viewers, which will air shortly.
Tonight is the third installment in our Your VA series, and we will be focusing on the California Department of Veteran Affairs, otherwise known as CalVet. Our guest from CalVet will be followed by a special Memorial Day tribute. Memorial Day is Monday, May 25th. It is a day in which we as Americans stop to honor the men and women who gave their lives in service for this country.
We're broadcasting live from the CCTV studio and streaming this episode on our website. We will be taking your calls, emails, and live chats anytime during this show. Our phone number is 925-313-1170, and our email appears below. We welcome you to ask questions anonymously through our live chat link located on the top left of our homepage. Tonight, we'd love to hear from you, your voice. Ask a question, make a comment, call in. Call us with your thoughts and feedback about the show. How can we at Veterans Voices continue to serve you? What topics matter to you? Call us live tonight in the studio. We know as veterans you have a voice, and we want to hear that voice.
Good evening. Welcome to Veterans Voices. Tonight is our third installment of Your VA. We're focusing on CalVet, the California Department of Veterans Affairs. My name is Kevin Graves, and I am your co-host for the show. Unfortunately, I'm not able to be with you live tonight. I've been called away on military leave. My job with CalVet is that I'm a LINK, a local interagency network coordinator. My mission is to outreach to the veterans of the Bay Area and surrounding counties. We provide resources and benefits, and we also collaborate with our community partners, both governmental and non-governmental, for-profit, nonprofit, and faith-based organizations. CalVet has 8 links statewide. It's a large territory to cover, but we enjoy our jobs and it's very rewarding. Between myself and my colleagues, we do the best we can to provide veterans with the benefits and resources that are available to them. Tonight we'll have several representatives from CalVet telling you about all the programs that are available. Enjoy the show, and thank you for watching.
Welcome back. Tonight's topic is CalVet, and now I'd like to welcome Diane Vanderpot. Diane is Undersecretary of the CalVet Veterans Home. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Diane, tell us a little bit about your military service. We know that you served in the Army. How many years did you serve in the Army for?
So I served a little over 30 years on active duty.
Wow.
So I started off as a private and did 4 years and then came back on active duty after I went back to school and then served, I don't know, a whole bunch more years.
What a
Too
career.
many to remember.
And you have an interesting story about joining the Army that you shared with us earlier.
Sure.
Tell our audience a little bit about the decision that went from joining the Air Force to signing up in the Army.
Sure. So the year was 1978. And I was just finishing up high school. My father had been in the Air Force, and I think I always wanted to have a military career. But I also had a real passion for languages. So I went to the Air Force recruiter, following my father's footsteps, and I said I wanted to be a linguist. Took all the language tests, passed. He says, well, I'm really sorry, but the Air Force isn't taking women right now. So I said, okay, but I really want to be a linguist. He says, well, then let me introduce you to the Army recruiter. And his name was Winston Churchill, and it was kind of history after that. So I was able to go to DLI. I became a Russian linguist, and when I finished basic training, went to the Defense Language Institute in Monterey. I was in process by a female Air Force person. So go figure.
Well, it sounds like the Air Force missed out on a very key person in their branch of service, but glad the Army had you for 30 years. Thank you for serving. And you continue to serve. You're the Undersecretary for Veterans Homes at CalVet.
Sure.
A very important part of CalVet is understanding that it's a state agency. So when we talk about Undersecretary of CalVet, you work for the state of California and you manage the veterans homes throughout the state. And we're here in Contra, Costa County, so a lot of folks understand the CalVet Veterans Homes as being Yountville.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the history of Yountville. It's very exciting to hear how that Veterans Home started.
Sure. Well, first let me say that, after 30 years in the Army, it was really difficult for me not to want to continue to give service to veterans. So I did, I volunteered when I first got out, and I was fortunate enough to get this job. And it's an incredibly rewarding experience for me right now. So California, the state of California, has 8 veterans homes. Every state in the nation has at least one veterans home, but we're very lucky because we have 8 of them. The Yountville home, as you've already mentioned, is one of the oldest in the nation. It's 131 years old.
Right.
It was initially built from California. It's not necessarily from the federal government or even the state government.
Okay.
It was some veterans, basically, that really wanted to give back and offer a transitional place for the folks getting out of the Civil War to go.
Imagine that.
So they had almost 900 acres up in Napa. And they taught them not only how to rehabilitate themselves and get to a better health, but they also offered them some transitional type jobs, farming, ironworks, those kind of things that would kind of give people a trade. So that's the Yountville home. Right now, that's the biggest home that we have in this state.
Right.
But we're very fortunate here because we have 7 other ones. They range from Redding in the north all the way down to Chula Vista near San Diego. The Redding and the Fresno homes are our newest homes, and those are just incredible. They are private rooms and private bathrooms, so it feels like you're living in a lodge. It's very personable. The Fresno home has 300 rooms, and then the Redding home has 150. And then we still have Los Angeles, which has 396 rooms or beds. Those are dual beds. There's 2 veterans in a room, and then they share a bathroom there. And then Ventura and Lancaster is only assisted living there, and there's only 60 beds there. And then we have Barstow and Chula Vista, which are the second and third oldest homes in our states, and they're approximately 25 to 30 years old.
Okay, so the program's really then evolved over the years from the traditional Yountville Veterans Home, readjustment for veterans who are returning from combat, and the homes have grown, so now there's 8 instead of just the one in Yountville.
Right.
And traditionally, just a veteran could live in a home, but can a veteran live there with their spouse also?
So we do make accommodation for what we call non-veteran spouses. We try to, it's kind of a special exception to have a spouse in the rooms with the veterans. It becomes difficult. There's 1.8 million veterans here in the state of California, and if we were to offer beds for all spouses, we would run out of beds for veterans. So yeah, we look at each application very carefully and just try to do the best thing for the veteran and his family, but also all the veterans in the state.
Absolutely. Well, that's good. And the point you made earlier, Nathan, is it's important to let the veterans know that there are other veteran homes available and outside of Yountville. And I think it's also good to know that the underwrite secretary, for the CalVet homes is also a veteran. So to keep that link there to make it more personable and not just, another face.
Sure, I think the message I'd like to say is kind of break the paradigm that there was always a wait list and always, oh gosh, it's going to take 3 to 5 years to get into Yountville. Well, now that we have 8 homes, there is a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, in the independent and assisted level is probably where there is more flexibility to admit veterans. When you start to get into the skilled nursing level, it is a bit more challenging. I think we are kind of a reflection of private society. Really, nobody wants to go into institutionalized care until they absolutely have to. So, and healthcare is so much better now, where the professionals go to somebody's home, so there's more reason to stay in your own home instead of being for us, a veteran's home. However, we want to be there with open arms when the time comes when a veteran does need a little bit more help than, say, what the family can offer.
Well, I want to remind everyone that tonight we have CalVet on the show, and we really want to invite your questions and comments. I don't think that a lot of our audience is necessarily familiar with the agency of CalVet, and so here's the opportunity to find out directly from the Undersecretary of Veterans Homes about how the CalVet Veterans Homes best serve you and your family. Now, the one thing I want to point out is that you mentioned some of the challenges or some of the opportunities for a veteran to live and remain in their own home. But one of the things I've been impressed by in terms of the veterans' homes is the way that CalVet creates community for veterans at the homes. Can you give us some examples of what kind of life and what kind of community thrives at places like Yountville?
Well, Yountville is a very unique home. Besides the rooms and this just incredible location in the Napa Valley, there are a lot of amenities that we had when you say you were in the military, just like through the MWR. There was a bowling alley, there's a gym there, there's the Lincoln Theater that is right on campus that is very generous. I think probably what's most important is the generosity and the devotion of the community surrounding the veterans' homes. We find that the communities, there's a great outpouring to come in and be with the veterans, celebrate with the veterans, and donate to them. So there's just a lot of activities. Obviously there's activities, whether it's some kind of physical exercise or special meals, but also outings. They go to baseball games. A lot of times, because they want to honor veterans. Some of our more senior veterans are honored. As a matter of fact, up in Reading this weekend, they had some asphalt rodeo parade, and World War II female veteran was the Grand Marshal of the parade. So it was just a delight to see them. Yeah, please check out any of the home's Facebook pages, and you can just see an enormous amount of the activities that are going on in all of the homes there.
Well, we have our own Facebook pages, so we'll have to link Facebook from Veterans Voices to Facebook of the Veterans Homes.
Please do.
We've talked a lot about Civil War and World War II veterans, but from what I understand, CalVet and Veterans Homes is really looking at how they can serve the younger generation of veterans and their needs. Tell us a little bit about how the Veterans Homes are preparing themselves for serving, say, the Vietnam or younger generations.
Sure. I think, for many, many years, the World War II generation was the senior generation, and we now, sadly, they are slowly dying off, and now we're starting to notice, and the Korean generation as well, but we're starting to notice more Vietnam-era veterans that are coming in. And we need to posture ourselves for this new generation. I always kind of say, like, it's going from Glenn Miller to I don't know, Ziggy Marley, or somebody that it's a totally different generation. So meat and potatoes maybe transplanted to tacos. Bingo, it has to, some other different kind of activity that may be a Vietnam era veteran. And also they grew up different. They're looking for private rooms. They're looking for some of their own personal space.
So that they can maintain that independence and still feel like.
And we're also noticing some healthcare issues with them. They came from a different generation. Their needs, or the things that they experienced during the war were different. And again, they're just kind of a reflection of our population that are in their 60s and 70s now. And so we also need to review our medical care to make sure that we're on target for the future.
Very good point. A generation that's been exposed to a lot of environmental hazards and are dealing with diseases that CalVet Veterans Homes may be caring for, right? And so my understanding is that along with the Veterans Home is the opportunity to really be cared for at the Veterans Home. So the Veterans Homes has doctors and nurses and a whole crew that runs the Veterans Home to make sure a veteran lives healthy there, right?
Yeah, we provide primary care. So we do have doctors and nurses, and as the higher levels of care, there's CNAs that are there, the nursing assistants that help with the residents. But what's really important is that we are linked with the VA. So if a veteran needs more than what we can offer in primary care, we do transport them to the VA, make sure that they're getting the care that they need there.
Very good. Well, you've told us a lot about the Veterans Homes program, and I want to encourage veterans to really follow up with the information tonight, whether it be a World War II veteran who is just maybe looking for that type of care, or whether it be a younger generation veteran who's looking at how to plan the rest of their life and how they're going to afford or how they're really going to protect themselves when possibly long-term care is needed. A lot of veterans come into our office in the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Office with concerns about their long-term care and their spouse's long-term care. And we in our office always recommend that veteran look very closely at how the CalVet Veterans Home will serve not only their medical needs, but their need for community and independence, and really to be amongst other veterans during one of the greatest times of their life. So, Diane, I want to thank you very much for being on the show tonight and for your service as well. Incredible to have your 30 years in the Army and as a translator, and the Army got a good bargain with you, and CalVet as well, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Diane, thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll return after this public service announcement from CalVet's Affordable Housing Program.
When veterans return from the service, whether they've been in combat or not in combat, they have challenges with housing, education, health care, employment, and we in CalVet have an attempt to solve those issues for veterans. For example, in housing, this is a good example of housing. We have partnered to build housing for veterans, low-income housing for veterans, and that's important that we do this because we offer a lot of benefits in housing that other mortgage companies don't offer.
We take the balance sheet, the funding that CalVet has, its resources to put behind enriched neighborhoods
to make these very complex communities possible and a reality.
We are now joined by Gary Bonin and Mark Walbert, representing CalVet Home Loans. Welcome to the show, Mark and Gary.
It's great to be here. Nice to be here.
So as I understand, we have a veteran, so I'd like to say thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mark Walbert. I oversee the origination, processing, and underwriting for CalVet Home Loans.
Okay.
I'm a veteran, retired Air Force.
Well, thank you for your service. And Gary, I understand that you are have a family military background.
Yeah.
So it's very close to your heart. And if you don't mind, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Gary Bonner, I'm the Loan Production Operations Manager for CalVet. My father served in World War II and was a very proud man when I joined the CalVet Home Loan Program.
Okay.
Good. And so, Mark, you actually worked on planes. You were a mechanic, and later we're going to have John on the show, who then flew those planes.
That's
so
right.
I want to establish that connection because there's really what we're finding out from CalVet tonight is there's a lot of veterans serving within the agency, and a lot of the roles are kind of supportive of each other. And so we just talked about the veterans' homes, but CalVet Home Loan is a separate entity from the veterans' homes and actually helps veterans to take advantage of the opportunity to purchase a home right here in California. It's a hot market right now. A lot of people are wanting to buy a home, maybe their first home. The opportunity has returned back with people's incomes increasing from a difficult recession, and from what I understand, CalVet is doing a lot of loans to help those veterans find where they want to live. So we know about the home loan guarantee because we talked about that in our last show, real briefly. Tell us a little bit how the CalVet Home Loan is a different opportunity.
Well, the CalVet Home Loan, we've been doing home loans for the veterans purchasing in California since 1921. Program's been around for quite some time, and we're still doing it. And we absolutely encourage every veteran who's going to be purchasing in California to come to the program first.
Okay.
And there's several reasons for that. Probably the biggest reason is that we look at the individual loan and not the credit score. Mm-hmm. Or not the automated system that judges whether a person can qualify for a loan or not.
And Gary, you called that earlier common sense lending. Is that what you call that?
Common sense underwriting, absolutely.
Common sense underwriting, okay.
Yes, so we look at the person, not an automated system that makes that decision. So every decision is made by an underwriter who understands, veterans and their credit situations and possibly their work situations coming out of the military. We have to take into consideration their military job as opposed to their civilian job. Right. And there's a lot that we can do in underwriting these loans to get a veteran in a home that private sector lenders cannot.
Okay. So when you talk about underwriting, you're talking about the state of California actually being the underwriter of this loan, and California loans the money directly to the veteran?
Exactly, and that is another advantage, is that your loan actually stays with the state of California.
Oh, okay.
It's serviced by people that, again, work for the state of California. And so you get some veteran-friendly loan servicing to go along with that. And that comes in real handy if you ever have some challenges down the road with your loan.
Right.
So I can imagine that's made it an attractive market, that you guys are still following with that same process.
Oh yes,
looking at-
Absolutely.
right. And then we also, there's some other advantages or differences between the federal VA and the state of California. We
Great.
can do products that the federal VA doesn't do. We do construction loans, we do rehab loans, we do some property types that a bank will not do that's using the federal guarantee.
Okay.
We also have an insurance, all of our home loans are insured by our own insurance division, and our insurance is unparalleled in the industry. The reason why is that we actually underwrite the entire portfolio. So each individual house isn't, normally when you get insurance, your home itself is underwritten.
Right.
And so if you're sitting on a fault line or something, your earthquake insurance premium would be quite high.
Oh, I see.
But what we underwrite the entire portfolio, and we offer earthquake and flood insurance, and we have some of the best, again, premiums in the industry in those two areas. And again, our insurance is just, you really are in good hands with CalVet. You call us, we will. We do pay, we respond, we pick up the phone. So the insurance is another, we have people that literally pay off their loans and want to extend their loan term because they don't want to give up the insurance. It's that good. So great products, great insurance, and then again, competitive rates, good service all along is really what you're getting when you call CalVet. You've got people that care about you and know you're a veteran, and we want to place that money. That's a real difference.
Yeah, and what I really liked about what you said is that the loan stays with CalVet, and I hear that as a source of frustration for some veterans when they go to use the home loan guarantee. They assume the VA is owning that loan, but they come to find out the loan has actually been sold to several different lenders, and they don't even know who to call. And since CalVet Home Loans has been around since 1921, Gary, you said,
Correct.
then you guys are very experienced, but you're also always available to that veteran until that loan is paid off.
They will call the same number that they've been calling for, over 90 years.
That's
So
amazing.
comes right to us, and we service the loans and all their needs on that loan.
And what's the best way for a veteran to communicate with a veteran's home loan? Is it as easy as calling and you guys answering the phone? I mean, oftentimes the veteran doesn't find a benefit really that accessible. Can they call the CalVet Home Loan folks and talk to someone like you, Gary?
Absolutely. We have a whole panel of loan originators who will walk them through the process. It's a scary process for somebody who's never been through it.
Right.
We understand it. We have a lot of experience now that we've brought in that handles those phone calls that you're talking about, and we will absolutely walk them through the whole process. They're not alone at all through that process.
And I think that makes the process a lot easier when they can actually connect with the person and discuss their options and have the personal conversations.
And they have that point of contact throughout. Again, we do the whole process from origination to closing to funding the loan and then to servicing it. And they have that one point of contact that they meet in the beginning, and they can call them anytime.
And many people actually use the internet. Our website is top notch right now. You can go on and if you actually get to our website, which is the CalVet website, there's some counterfeits out there, but if you get to ours, what you'll see is an easy way to kind of learn about the program, and then you just hit apply now, and there's a short little application, just your name and some little information. We get that very moment that you press that button, and we're calling you back within the next day or so, and walking you through the process.
Well, speaking of calling, I want to remind our audience tonight, did you have the opportunity to call and ask questions or make a comment? I know many of you out there watching the show tonight may be thinking that you are ready to purchase a home here in California. And here's the opportunity to talk to the experts, the folks that'll be on the other line or on the other side of that phone call and really guiding you through that process. Here's a chance to ask them a question or even leave a comment. We'd like to hear from you. If you purchased a home using the CalVet Home Loan, what was that process like? And did the CalVet Home Loan serve your needs? I want to bring it back to the the terms of the CalVet home loan, because a lot of folks know that the VA home loan guarantee is available with 100% financing. It helps to bring it more at an easier level when you don't have to put a large amount down on a home loan. That's the CalVet the home loan guarantee. But does CalVet offer the same kind of opportunity when they underwrite a loan?
Yeah, we actually do the VA, we do the federal VA loan. That's one of our products. So
Okay.
It's just that we fund it as opposed to having a bank fund it. So all the same criteria, 0 down payment, the closing cost limitations, all those things that you get with the federal VA loan, you get with us. You just get the added benefit of it being the state funding the loan.
So, I'm sorry.
But in addition to that, if your VA loan has been utilized or you've lost it for some reason, we also have a product that only requires a 3% down payment that is unparalleled in the industry. You wouldn't find it. So you could have a home in Virginia that your house is tied up with your VA, and if you've moved here, you can still get a loan through CalVet and get started in California.
Oh, I see.
So when we talked about the down payment just now, so what are some steps you would recommend a veteran start to take if they are interested in, purchasing a home or contacting you all to get that process started? What are some tips you would give them?
Well, I'll start and then I'll let Gary add in. Again, one of the things we look for is, first of all, we just want to make sure you can pay us back, so we want stability of income. And what that just means is we look for a job to be about you to be in your job for 2 years. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be in the same job. If you decide to change jobs, as long as you're in the same line of work, we count that within the 2 years.
Sure.
You can come out of school. If you finish your nursing degree and you get a job in nursing, we can count some of that school.
Oh, wow.
But we're looking for stability of your income. We're also looking for your character and repayment. And what that we look at a credit report and we kind of see how you've paid in the past. If you've had trials in the past, if you had trouble, we kind of look for 12 months of clear credit. So 12 months you've had to kind of hunkered down and paid your bills.
Right. Wow.
If you've missed a payment just last week, you can still call us. We might help you, look at what that was and listen to your story. But for the most part, we want you to have paid your bills for 12 months. Obviously, the longer you've paid your bills, the better off you'll be.
Okay.
And then I would say the other thing to do is to save a little bit of money. There are some things there are some costs that go along with it. It makes it a little bit easier if you've got some money saved. And also thought about what you really can afford. A lot of people, think that, I'm paying rent here, but boy, I think I can afford twice that once they buy a house, and I don't know what miraculously happens that somebody thinks that's the case. So I have them think really hard about what can I really afford, and maybe even start practicing making a payment, that was similar to what they think their house payment's going to be.
And just making sure that they're comfortable with the decision they make. Okay.
But what would you recommend in terms of affordability? I mean, because I think that's a big question for a lot of people. What can I really afford? So when you look at, say, gross income, what would you recommend that someone spend in terms of a monthly mortgage?
Well, I'll answer that again.
Underwriting.
I mean, there's a rule of thumb with what we look is debt to income. So that's their total debt, including their housing and all their bills that we'll see on a credit report. So just what we'll see on a credit report, which is your revolving debt, or if you have a car payment. We're not talking about your utilities that you pay, or we're not talking about your insurance payment. It's kind of a little tricky, but anything you'd see on a credit cards, that plus
student loans.
Exactly, student loans would be on there. That plus your house payment, and you could call us and we could tell you what a house payment would be, or you could go on our website and there are little calculators there that you can put how much of a home you think you can afford, and it'll tell you what the house payment would be. So if you take that house payment plus what you have in additional bills, that can be about 41% of your income. 41%. So if you can do, and we have a little tool on the website as well to help you do that. So if you're a mathematician and you like to do those little calculations, we look about 41. That doesn't mean we won't go higher. Again, we're going to look at whether or not we think you can afford it, and we aren't stuck on those numbers.
Common sense and
common sense. Right. And so we hate to give those numbers out because you might find us to be much more flexible.
And I think that's really appropriate here in the state of California, where you can find some areas, affordability of housing is very tight, particularly in the Bay Area right here. It can be very difficult for a veteran who is trying to support their family with a place to live to be able to afford a home. And so it sounds like you look at a lot of factors to really help that veteran understand whether they're going to be successful in purchasing that home, which I guess works both for CalVet, since you're the lender, and for the veteran, because you want them to live in California. California is a great place for veterans to live. There's not a lot of military bases here, but I think what draws veterans to the state is the great weather, the great resources available for veterans, our schools, for example, our universities, and the ability of the GI Bill. Yes, go ahead,
I
Gary.
was just going to say, everything that Mark was just talking about is what he's trained his originators to discuss with the veterans to help them understand the process and what they need to go through. So the qualifying and knowing how much they can qualify for is an absolute part of that discussion that they should have. And if they think they have a better deal with another lender out there, we will absolutely discuss it with them and compare it to our program. If that other deal seems to be a better fit for the veteran, we will absolutely let them know that. We're here to help the veteran in any way we can.
Well, I want to say I actually recently called CalVet myself to talk to him about the home loan program. I was very impressed. I think one of the originators called me back, and she talked to me for a good probably 5-15 minutes even about my opportunities. So I want to thank CalVet and the home loan program for what you do to help veterans in the state. Thank you
very much.
We invite you to call in and let us know how we at Veterans Voices can better serve you. What would you like to see highlighted and discussed on our monthly live production, Veterans Voices? Our number here in the studio is 925-313-1170, and our email is below. You can also interact with us via our social media pages. Gary, Mark, thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll be right back after this short message from CalVet. So we're back live in the CCTV studio, and welcome back. If you are just tuning in, this is our third installment of the Your VA series. We're now joined by John Kraft, the Outreach Manager for the Veterans Services Division. And welcome, John.
Thanks a lot, Nathan. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And you work with Kevin, our co-host on the show. And so you're already familiar with the show, but we're not quite so familiar with you, other than we know you served in the Air Force, John. So tell us a little bit about your service.
I did. I served in the Air Force for almost a quarter century. It was a lot of fun. Time went by in a flash, though, I'll tell you. I know a lot of people viewing out there would say the same thing. It was really exciting to serve. I loved almost every minute of it.
How amazing. So we had 30 years from Diane, right? I think we had another 30, didn't we, from Mark? And then we have 25 here from John. That's over, what, 80-something years of service in the military. CalVet is really doing their job and serving in the military and serving veterans throughout the state of California. I want to jump right into things here because we really want to focus on CalVet as an agency. And we've talked a little bit about the benefits that they provide. We know about the veterans' homes, we know about the CalVet home loan program, and we haven't really had an opportunity to really dive into all that CalVet has to offer. But let's talk about the purpose of CalVet and why it's important for the state of California to have its own agency that serves our veterans. We know we talked a little bit earlier about 1.8 million veterans in this state. And so how long has CalVet as an agency been taking care of veterans and their families here in the state?
Well, CalVet has been around as a state agency for decades, almost as long as the home loan program. Home loan program actually predated the agency.
Oh, wow.
Our specific goal in veteran services is to literally find the veterans where they are, hit the veterans out on the streets in the grassroots programs. Much like you do in the county area, you know very well what your local veterans need. And in my particular role with CalVet, I work with Kevin and a total of 8 field agents. We call them links. I think Kevin had introduced that. The acronym is wonderful. I wish I could take credit for it. Local Interagency Network Coordinators.
Okay.
It describes their job perfectly.
Right.
They get out on the street, they find veterans where they're living, working, where their families are doing business throughout their day, and they perform outreach. And they do that in various modes. They can do it at formal settings at resource fairs or employment fairs. They visit schools constantly. They go up and down the state to student veteran centers in various colleges. And we also, since there are only 8 of them throughout the state, serving 1.8 million veterans, we've come to realize that we need help. And so we do that by leveraging not just a people part of the equation, but also technology. On the people side, we collaborate with direct service partners. And the links do that every month, every week, in fact, week in, week out. They meet with direct service providers in their specific regions, and they discover what kind of outreach modes work best, where the next event is going to be, what veterans are perhaps missing out on, because when they go out and they work with veterans, they realize that veterans have a lot of questions. And sometimes they draw common threads, a commonality to those questions, and that's when we can, through direct service providers, envision and then create new events for veterans out in the field.
Now, a lot of our military presence in the state of California is in Southern California. Locally, we have Travis Air Force Base in Solano County. We have Lemoore and Beale. So a little bit of a presence left here in the Northern California area. But this is an agency that does this statewide. So is there a particular focus that the links have for veterans here in the Bay Area that may be different than other parts of the state?
That's exactly right. It's like fingerprints. Each region has a very different flavor, very different feel, very different set of veteran needs. In the Central Valley, for example, employment is absolutely the highlight of veteran needs at the moment. Around the Bay Area, it's often more education, but certainly employment throughout the state. As you had mentioned, veterans are located throughout the state, but 3/4 to 7/8 of veterans are located in Southern California, or at least the southern half of California. And of course, each region has unique needs. And as Kevin may have mentioned in his clip, each link in the 8 regions are partnered up with a local county veteran service officer to act as a host, just as you act as Kevin's host. This partnership, this symbiotic relationship, has proven very valuable because, of course, our CalVet links are able to refer veterans to the more detailed services in their local county veteran service office. And conversely, the CVSOs are able to check in with their links or the links in neighboring regions and say, hey, there's a veteran that is transiting from one part of the state to the other, needs some personalized care. And that's the best part of the job that I have working with our link network, is we work one-on-one with veterans. When we discover there's a veteran in need, a veteran in crisis, or a family member of a veteran in crisis, we're on the ball right away, and we work with that veteran, and we bring direct service providers in to help him or her.
Great, John. So we have a question here I want to get to, and this is available through our chat, which is great. I want to invite everyone to send in a question or a comment, either through our chat function or call in or email us. And so this question says, what benefits are available to veterans' family members through CalVet? Great question.
It's an outstanding question. In fact, thanks whoever asked it, because it's one of our flagship benefits. It happens to be the CalVet dependent fee waiver. This is really what got me interested in CalVet as an agency and what they could really do in some life-changing ways for me and my family as a veteran. The CalVet dependent fee waiver is a process where, for the veteran, if they have a service-connected disability with the federal VA system of 0% or higher, then that veteran's dependents, their children primarily, but also spouses in certain categories, are able to go to college fee-free. That is any California community college, any California State University system college, or any UC college.
Yeah, fantastic.
Like a great program.
Yeah, and you have children, Melissa.
I do.
So a benefit that you could possibly use in the future.
I will definitely check that out. And you spoke a little bit about the disability claims. Is CalVet working with any of the veterans clinics, the hospitals, or the local regional offices, as far as working on the backlogs of the disability claims, or does CalVet have any input when it comes to those?
Another great question, Melissa. As a matter of fact, CalVet in the past year has just come on board what's called veteran claims strike teams.
Okay.
And this is a process that CalVet envisioned and is carried out now, where we have hired a number of up to a dozen CalVet claims reps that are co-located in federal VA regional offices. They work with what we call the CalVet District Office.
Okay.
There's one each in Oakland and West Los Angeles and San Diego. The sole job of those strike teams is to receive veteran claims and review them to ensure that they're fully developed and ready for rating,
Okay.
or to go back and help with appeals of those claims. In both of those cases, they are reducing the backlog of federal VA claims significantly. And it's being positively felt right now throughout the state.
And I
where
guess that's
veterans have
another
less.
way how maybe CalVet is serving the family, because some of those claims might be for survivors and the benefits that they're applying for, like DIC, dependency indemnity compensation.
Absolutely, and aid
or
in
death pension.
attendance.
Aid in attendance,
Those sort
yeah.
of things that directly help the family member to help their veteran.
Right. Well, John, we have another question. This is great. I want to continue to invite these questions and comments from our audience tonight. We have CalVet on the show. John Kraft is in charge of the is from the Veteran Services Division. And our question tonight, are there any resources for transgender veterans? And I want to elaborate on that a little bit and say, are there any resources or maybe any particular outreach focus on, say, any unique populations, including transgender veterans?
Absolutely. Our CalVet as a whole has a division dedicated to minority veterans' needs. And we have a Deputy Secretary for Minority Veterans, Mirtha Villarreal Younger, and she attends many functions, and she promotes a good amount of resource roundtables and panel discussions on the subject. In fact, I was able to attend one of her panel discussions at Sacramento State University this past year specifically for the LGBT veteran community, and trying to uncover what best practices we can move along with to help that particular veteran group. There are many segments of veterans that are underserved, and it's our job, it's incumbent on us to help break through that.
Good, John. I think that's very important. I mean, a lot has changed in terms of a repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and I think the Defense of Marriage Act repeal as well. And that's really changed how veterans who might be gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, that unique population is really being opened up the door, the opportunity to use these VA benefits. They can feel comfortable in their status as a veteran and know that CalVet is, particularly through the Minority Outreach Department, reaching out to them to make sure their needs are met. I want to get to another question. This is great. We're getting all our questions here with you, John, so everyone else got off the hook. But
batting cleanup here tonight, right?
There you go. But you're doing great. So we're going to ask another question here. Outreach. Is it primarily finding veterans who are not in the system? Question. Linking them up with the various programs and services such as VA, county VSOs, and others? So I guess, are you looking for just veterans who have never used CalVet, or are you looking also to serve veterans who maybe have plugged into one benefit but really don't know of all the services available? We just have a couple minutes to answer that question.
Okay, I'll start off by saying yes to both questions. It is in fact about finding veterans that have never used any sort of benefits information before, but it's also beyond that. It's that serendipity moment that I like to share with our Link team. It's absolutely critical that we don't stop with answering one question about benefits with our veteran or our family member. We make sure that they understand that there's a full spectrum of benefits, not just for them, but for their family members. And we find that every time we do this, the veteran walks away saying, wow, I didn't know there were 2 or 3 or 5 other things that I really, really need to help me make a smooth transition into civilian life.
Well, I didn't know that benefit was for me. I thought it was for a war veteran, and I'm a peacetime veteran. Or I thought it was for the wounded veterans instead of me, I'm healthy. So it really is important to continue that outreach effort. And I really appreciate the partnership between CalVet and the County Veteran Service Office program, including Contra Costa County. And I want to point to the fact that CalVet is a sponsor of the Veterans Voices show. Through the Mental Health Services Act and Prop 63 funding, Veterans Voices has had the opportunity to apply for a grant, and we received a grant which opened up the show back in July, and we have a grant pending with CalVet, and that just shows one way in which CalVet is directly affecting the lives of veterans, their family members, and even our community here in Contra Costa. It funds this show and the chance for us to talk about the very important issues that veterans have in a real way. And that's what we do on this show. We don't just talk about the headlines. We don't just talk about the 30-second clip of what's going on in veterans' lives. We talk about the real issues, the real programs, the real resources, and CalVet is one of the good ones. And John, I appreciate your time on the show tonight. You did a great job fielding all the questions. I appreciate your service, flying in the Air Force for 25 years. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Melissa. Thanks, Nathan.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure being here.
Thank you for joining us again tonight, John. And we'd like to dedicate a portion of our program tonight to Memorial Day. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day, a day of remembrance for those who died in service. Regardless of the exact date or location of its origins, Memorial Day was born out of the Civil War and a desire to honor our dead.
Many people confuse Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Simply put, Memorial Day is a day for remembering those that have died in American wars or as a result of wounds sustained in those conflicts. Veterans Day is the day set aside to thank and honor all those who've served honorably in the military, in both wartime and peace.
Very important to know, I think. A Memorial Day quote that we here at Veterans Voices would like to share with you was provided to us by our very own retired Army Sergeant Zachariah Bass, a veteran of the Iraq War. Never shall we forget to honor their sacrifice. Those that have gone before us, of yesteryear and today, you are gone, but certainly not forgotten. And I want to take a moment tonight to honor our co-host, Kevin Graves, and his son, Joey Graves, who was killed in Iraq. And Joey and the several thousands of other veterans, service members who were killed in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and our wars as far back as World War II. We want to honor them on this show tonight.
The Wall That Heals is one of 4 walls that travel the country to educate people about the Vietnam Memorial and the Vietnam War in general. We had built the memorial in Washington, D.C. in 1982, but we needed to bring this to communities, to deliver it to people, young or old, who couldn't either physically or emotionally make it to the wall in Washington, D.C. We usually travel to about 40 stops each year. The Vietnam Memorial has become a symbol that everyone can rally around, no matter what era they're from. We can gather and we can remember friends, we can remember comrades, and we can remember loved ones, and we will continue to memorialize their service and sacrifice.
Now we have something very exciting for you, very personal to me. I'm very honored to have this opportunity. But we caught up recently with General James Mattis, a retired Marine general. A lot of personal experiences with Jim Mattis. And he was at a talk recently in San Francisco. And we would like to thank the Marines Memorial Club and Hotel in San Francisco, and especially retired Marine Colonel Christopher Starling, for allowing us to use the footage from this event honoring Iraq and Afghanistan veterans and welcoming us home. The Marine Hotel and Club is a living memorial to our country's past and her present. The 10th floor is dedicated exclusively to the men and women in uniform who have perished in the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. It's a fantastic place to really honor those service members. Enjoy this short video.
For the veterans of the Iraq and Afghan wars, of these very poorly explained and inconclusive wars, of the first major wars that we have fought in our country's history without a draft forcing some men into the ranks. It's understandable that the question of our service and what it meant may loom very large in our minds, for you most assuredly put something in to our country's moral bank. Memories of our time overseas remains with us, recalling to mind ourselves and our comrades when we were younger and we're willing to give our all for this country, and especially for our buddies. These memories are often frequent if unbidden. You may be home for the holidays and you hear duck hunters shoot in the distance, and for just a minute you glance over to see if your lieutenant or your squad leader's coming with that kind of alertness that means grab your gear. And then you hear your family's voices in the background and you relax, smiling to yourself, and you rejoin their conversation as if nothing happened. In my case, it's natural too, ladies and gentlemen, when I think of veterans, to think of our country, because they are inextricably linked in my heart and in my mind. Yeah, I have not found any challenges. I've enjoyed every minute of it. I love getting out. I enjoy not having to get my hair cut quite so often, but I also kept all the military things with me. I keep working out, kind of keeps me motivated each day, go out and do my 3-mile run, and just kind of enjoy life, all the freedoms that we fought for when we were on active duty. So just go out there and enjoy every day in the greatest country on earth.
We hope you enjoyed that. Since Memorial Day is coming back, we have many events going on in our area. We'd like to cover them for you. There will be a ceremony held at the USS San Francisco Memorial Park on May 24th at 11:30 a.m. Contact Art Curtis for more information. Also on May 24th, there will be a decoration and watchfire event at the Yountville Veterans Home. How great! This particular event takes place at the cemetery from 5 to 7 p.m. On Monday, May 25th, there will be a ceremony at the Veterans Memorial Flagpole in Clayton. It starts at 10 a.m. Also on Monday, Martinez will be having a ceremony at the Alhambra Cemetery on George Miller Trail. Contact Dave Jackson with more information. On May 25th at 11 a.m., there will be a Patriotic Memorial Day ceremony at Pleasanton Senior Center on Sunol Boulevard. And VetCon is back. VetCon, John learned about it tonight. It's back in 2015, and it'll be held at the Hilton Hotel in Concord. Go to vetcon.org. We'd love to see you there. Call 415-413-8251 for more information.
On our website, you will find a list of helpful veterans resources that were discussed in tonight's show. CalVet.ca.gov is a great resource. Go to the Programs tab to see further information on what we discussed tonight. To find more information or to look up a name on the Wall That Heals Project website, go to vvmf.org/TWTH. We watched excerpts from General Mattis' lecture that was held at the Marines Memorial Club and Hotel, which has many great events coming up. Visit marineclub.com. Lastly, we would like to direct you to the Contra Costa Veterans Service Office, which can help you navigate the VA. Go to their website or call 925-313-1481.
Our next Veterans Voices show will be on June 15th, so tune in on CCTV or watch the live stream on our website. This episode will be rebroadcast on CCTV Monday nights at 7 p.m., Wednesdays at 11 p.m., and Saturdays at 9 a.m. You can watch all past episodes anytime on our website, contracostatv.org/Veterans Voices. I want to thank our guests. I want to thank CalVet for really representing themselves well on this show. John, it's been great to have you on. Mark, Gary, and Diane, fantastic opportunity to learn about Veterans Voices and CalVet and how we work together. I want to thank our hard-working production crew. They put a great show together tonight. We did some new things that we've never done, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. I want to thank those members of our audience who gave great questions to our guests over the chat. I want to invite some people to call in next week, use the email. This is about your voice. This is Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, wishing you all a good evening. Thank you for serving.